Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's On the Sofa. Very privileged to have Chris Ramsey with us, who will be on in a moment with Vic. So let's bring Vic on straight away, who's got some SAS news for us. Hi, Vic.
Hi, Chris. Yes, don't forget tomorrow, if you're travelling on SAS to Colchester, it starts at 2 o'clock and it's free parking if you are travelling on those buses. Chris, you will take registration numbers of those who've left their car on the bus, and then we will forward them to the football club. So that means that you won't have to pay to park if you're going to on SAS travel tomorrow afternoon, which leaves at 2 o'clock to go to Colchester. I think we should say something about Saturday. I've been watching the town since 1968, and that is without question the worst performance I've ever seen from a football team wearing the Swindon Town shirt. It cannot be acceptable in any way, shape or form. I'm sure the manager knows that. I'm sure the players know that. To be 3 down against a non-league team within 9 minutes, 3 minutes of which were whilst a player was down receiving treatment. It was quite appalling. And I have to say, even my little grandson, who's 7, was crying when the 6th and 7th goals went in. And I felt like the same. It was appalling. And then what else has happened over the weekend? Well, there are all sorts of rumours going around about the football club being in trouble again and being up for sale, people not being paid. A statement has come out from the owner, Mr. Morfuni. If you believe what it says in the statement, it says that it's not for sale, but people have approached him about the football club and people have been paid. What we want now is a bit of stability, please, Swindon Town Football Club. Whoever wants to get in charge of this football club and grab it by the neck, a bit of stability. Because I personally, like many other thousands of people who watch the town, have invested hours and hours and thousands of pounds in watching football and supporting football at Swindon Town. We want some stability. Swindon Town, sort it out and do it now. Because I personally am fed up to the back teeth of all this that's been going on for years and years and years. This is our football team. Our football team, and whoever's in charge of it, could you please sort it out now? I'm very angry, Chris, as you can possibly tell, but I won't be for the next few minutes because I'm going to talk to one of the legends of Swindon Town Football Club, and it takes me back to a great time. But I have to tell you, it's been a weekend of me being absolutely furious with what's going on. Sort it out now, not 10 years down the line, but now. We need somebody to come out and speak the truth, please. There we are.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Chris. Didn't mean to bring you on so abruptly then. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, Chris. And I will leave you, and I will, any questions, please put them in the comments and we'll get round to them. Thank you.
Chris, thanks ever so much. Mr. Ramsey, thank you ever so much for joining us. I'm sorry about that little burst of anger there, but it's been a really awful weekend. And you will appreciate more than most that as a football fan, first and foremost, passion is the thing that we all want and we want from our team, do we not?
Yeah, very much so. I see that you're in a very passionate mood about what the goings on there, but I'm sure the board will sort it out eventually for that great club.
Well, let's hope so, because it needs sorting out, and quickly. We should say, whilst you are wearing a QPR top, and we'll forgive you that, because you're technical director there at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, I know. So I've been working with the young ones this evening. So I've done my session this morning with the pros, and then I'm just overseeing the young ones this evening. So I'm still at the club.
Yeah, well, thank you ever so much for joining us. You will note that behind me, there is a shirt that you wore with pride. It's not your shirt, obviously, but a shirt similar to the one that you wore during those great times at the football club.
Yeah, no, I love Swindon. It's still a sleeping giant for me.
What do you think when you look at it from a distance? I mean, I know you've been back and you've watched the town occasionally. What do you see when you come back?
What do I see at the club? I mean, you've had your ups and downs, as you know, most clubs have, you know, and I think you had a great time at one stage where you were basically selling players as well and stuff like that. So you know what it's like. It's very difficult to maintain that. Sorry, the light's gone off in here. You know?
Yeah, there we are.
It's unbelievable. We're trying to save money now ourselves. So no, I mean, I always come back with affection every time I'm there, and everyone makes me feel very welcome. So You know, it's a place that I felt we had some really good times, and in less lucrative days, shall I say, for individual players. So I think things have changed somewhat in the whole game.
Yeah, we'll talk to you about that in a little while, because you've had various roles, coaching roles and stuff, and you are technical director at QPR. You know the ins and outs of running a football club. Interesting to get your take on that a little later. But let's take you way back to the start of your career. Bristol.
Yeah.
Dare I mention it? That's where you started out, wasn't it? Bristol City?
Yeah, I started at Bristol City back in the days of Alan Dix, 1978. I did my apprenticeship there. And they were in what was the old First Division then. So, you know, that was a baptism of fire, moving away from home at 16. I enjoyed it there, but, you know, it wasn't to be, you know, as an apprentice. Very difficult in those days. Only one sub as well, so it's not like now where you've got 16 players on in a squad, or 8 or 20, 25 players named at the beginning of the season. And then what is it now? 8 subs, I think. Is it 8 subs, 7 or 8 subs now?
Yeah, 5 come on, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot more difficult in from that point of view.
How different was life as an apprentice to what it is now? Because youngsters go to the academy, don't they? And they come up through various stages. But was life very different as an apprentice then as it is now?
Extremely. I mean, we had to sweep the terraces, divot the pitch, paint the ground, wash the kit. You know, in the old days we had that big bath that everyone used to get in. You have to scrub that down every day, and you had to clean boots every day as well. So it's completely different now. You probably spent 2-3 hours a day doing your jobs at least. You'd come in the morning, you'd have to prepare the kit for the first team. Then you would train yourself. Then you'd have to wash the kit. You done jobs all the time, so it's really different. They don't do that now.
That's interesting, isn't it? Is that a good or a bad thing, do you think? Because you know, you get grounded by doing all that stuff, I guess. Do you?
I think it was over the top to a point, but I think it's over the top now the other way. I think that the young players now. I think giving them some responsibilities, a daily responsibility, should help them. I don't think they do that now. I think that they have it far too easy from that point of view. And I'm not talking about getting, cheap labour. I'm not talking about that. But I think that they come in and don't realise there's a big, wide world out there. And if you're not playing football, you probably be doing some sort of job where there's a level of responsibility. So I think it's gone too far the other way. However, the education that they get now is a lot better than what we had.
Well, we're already getting comments in already. This is from Sean. He says, Rambo, Rambo, Rambo. You must remember that chant from the town end. Tony says, now this man is a legend. Pete Lango, who was a youth team player, of course, at the town. Yeah. Chris Rambo Ramsey. I was his boot boy. Pete Shaggy Lango. What a legend. We had Paul Hunt on here a couple of weeks ago as well. So those youth team players from around about that time. John says, honoured to have seen you play in a town shirt. So there's a lot of people who remember you fondly here, which you'll be delighted to know. So when you get to be an apprentice, what happens then? Because, of course, there comes a point when you either make that leap or you don't. So what happened to you?
I got released to Bristol City because I had players ahead of me like Jerry Sweeney and Don Gillies, people like that who played in my position, Paul Stevens. So I just got released. I was one of a statistic, so to speak, and I left. And in those days, there was no agents getting you trials at other clubs and stuff like that. You actually had to handwrite your letter and send it out to clubs. And believe it or not, a lot of the times they would write back. I remember getting a letter from John Lyle, in Ipswich, I think it was in those days, and managers would actually reply to your letters, or their secretaries would, or whatever. And a lot of the times they would reply with a handwritten letter. So it's very different to what it is now.
Yeah, incredible. So what happened then? Brighton come into your life, don't they?
Yeah, I sent 3 or 4 letters out to different clubs. Sent out to Brighton, and fortunately for me, Gary Stevens was. I trained with England under-20s when I was at Bristol City. I played a match, a youth team match, and played really well. And John Cartwright, who was the England under-20s manager, picked me for a camp. And luckily for me, when my letter went to Brighton, where Ken Craggs, who was the chief scout at the time, picked it up and told Alan Mullery, that he'd seen my letter. Believe it or not, it was one of the letters. He had to take it out of the bin because they get so many that he had to take it out of the bin. And he told Alan Mullery. Alan Mullery invited me in, and I had a trial and was fortunate enough to get in.
Yeah, you had quite a time at Brighton, FA Cup final and everything. I mean,
yeah. I mean, Brighton was another great place, good place. We had some really good players. I mean, to be honest with you, it was a bit of a party town for us at the time. But we enjoyed the lights there. We had some really good friends there. Steve Foster, Jimmy Case, Perry Digweed, people like that were really good friends of mine, and time to time I keep in touch with them. We have reunions there as well, but it was good because we were in the first division as well. We got relegated after a while, but we were in the first division there as well, so it was good.
Cup final against Manchester United, of course. I think you played in the original game, but not the replay. Is that right?
Yeah, because I was a very injury-prone player. I had, I think, 15 ops in my time. I think Swindon was my least place of injury, but I ended up playing in the cup final there, which was obviously a memorable occasion. Cup final was very different in those days. It was a showstopper. The whole country stopped for the cup final in those days. Along with the Royal Variety Performance and the Grand National. These things where everybody would watch. So it was a boyhood dream of most players in those days. And it was an honour to play in it.
Yeah, don't mention FA Cups to Swindon Town fans because that's not great. But that replay, of course, didn't work out in Brighton's favour. If I'm rightly, was it Gordon Smith had a great chance right at the end for Brighton in that first game?
Yeah, he did. But the main thing is for us, in a warped way, it was great to go back to Wembley again. It was in a warped way. It was great to do that. And Gordon was a great player. Yeah. A lot of people say that he should have scored, but you know what? It was a great save.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It was a bit like, I was just trying to think of Eusebio had a chance against Stepney in the European Cup final in '68. It was pretty similar, wasn't it? One-on-one,
exactly.
Keeper pulled out a save to make the save. Yeah,
and exactly.
It's always the forward has to score, but the keeper saves it. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Lots of comments coming in. Here we go. Wish Rambo was at the club now in some format. Clearly got a soft spot for the club. Seems there's lack of that from some at the club. That's from Lee. Don't forget the. Oh, hang on. Don't forget the FA Cup suits. Can you still get into yours, Chris?
Yeah, with a corset.
What was yours like?
We had the old white jacket and white shoes. It was something, but no, I don't think I can get into mine now. I think I'll have to leave one of the buttons undone, I think.
Did you make a record?
We did as well. So, but I think I've burnt mine.
You didn't make it at the top of the pops then, quite.
We was on top of the pops.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, well, was a little claim to fame, top of the pops.
Wow, fantastic.
But we didn't sing the song.
What? You were just there as guests, were you?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. We would love to have seen that song, I'm sure. Let's have a look. Daz has sent this in. 1984 to 1987, Swindon Town, 100 appearances, 5 goals. Chris Leroy Ramsey, MBE. I salute you, sir. And we will, of course, mention the MBE because that's a great honour for you. And you've been given that for your services to football and diversity. So that must have been a great honour for you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I didn't really want it solely for diversity because I think that I wouldn't have wanted it for that. My services to football, it's an honour for me to have been in it. This is my 44th or 45th season. So, I do believe that there is, that the football has given me a lot, and I've put obviously my share into it. And obviously the diversity was something that I've always fought against, you know, even as a player. I've always stood up for it. And as I've become more educated, I realise the power of having a platform that allows you to open people's minds or try to make people aware of the injustices that minorities suffer.
It's a lot work still to do, I'm afraid, isn't there?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, sure. We wish there wasn't, but sadly, yeah, there is. So, just a brief question. This is from Steve. Did you have any part in Murphy Mahoney coming to Swindon this season? Because obviously we got Murphy Mahoney on loan. Are you involved in that at all?
Murphy would been one of the people. Is not solely. Gavin Ward is our goalkeeping coach, and he's trained him fantastically. And Murphy obviously played in our youth team and our under-23s. And you know, before he came, I told him what a great club it was, and you know how warm the people are, especially in the local area. And you know, he's come there, and we keep in touch, and he's thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, apart from Saturday, obviously, which wasn't great. Right, let's go to Swindon then. When did you first know about the interest of Lou? Because I think you came on loan originally, didn't you?
I came on loan because when you think about it, Brighton were in the old first division. We got relegated to the second division. I'd had an injury and I was out of the team. And obviously, I played against Lou when he was, as a player, and he was coming towards the end of his career, Lou. And he invited me in, but Brighton were then obviously in Div 4. So the drop, and I, believe it or not, I had a 3-year deal at Brighton. I could have stayed there. But I went there because of Lou, and I was a little bit in awe of Lou because Lou Macari, for goodness sake. And I went there and I had a really good time on loan, really enjoyed it. And Louis's man management for me was fantastic towards me. I've got to say, I was a bit tricky at the time. And initially I went on loan and I went back to Brighton. I actually went to Brentford on loan, but I didn't feature for them, but I went there as well. And then I went back to Brighton, and in the end, Lou decided to offer me a deal to come there permanently.
Yeah, how do you feel now looking back on that? Because you mentioned earlier that Brighton was a bit of a party town. Now, Lou was slightly different to that, wasn't he? He had slightly different values to players going out on the town and stuff. How did you find that?
To be honest with you, at the time, looking back now, he was right. He was completely right in what he said and how he prepared. And the reason being, if you look at, he played for Celtic and Manchester United for a long time, and he was probably about 36 when he came to us. So he's been at the top of his game. He played for Scotland. He played in big games, and he was a star. He was a star. So he would know all about being professional and all about how top players are and playing against internationals at top level. So for him coming to the club there with the way that football clubs were at that time and trying to professionalize it by bringing people in from different places, he was right. But when you're in the moment as a youngster, discipline isn't the thing that you really warm to. But most of the time we were disciplined, and Lou absolutely hated people drinking. Absolutely hated it.
A lot of running too, wasn't there?
Oh my God, the running was unbelievable. I mean, we were so fit. We used to run teams off the park. But he was. The training was probably as hard as I've ever had.
Well, I'm going to show you that now. There we are, Swindon Town in champion season, 85-86, of course, which is an extraordinary campaign. And then there's another one here, which is a picture of the skipper, Colin Calderwood, holding up that trophy, the 4th Division Championship trophy. Here we go. Clive says, can you ask Chris if he remembers the promotion party at 85-86 at House in Swindon? Great night with the whole squad, and still talk about it now. My mate gave him a lift back to the station the next day. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. I do remember it, but I'm going to graciously not divulge any of the secrets of the party.
Fair enough. I do remember. I was there actually. I do remember Chris Kamara climbing in through the window for some bizarre, strange reason. I don't know why that was. Right. Let's talk about that 85-86 season, because we're delighted that you're going to be attending that night on the 22nd of November. We're absolutely delighted that you're coming.
I'm going to be there.
Yeah, fabulous. And we're going to relive all those memories. But let's talk about that season, because it didn't get off to a great start, did it? It wasn't the best of starts, that campaign.
No. We I think we lost the first. We lost to, is it Wrexham who we lost to?
Yeah.
We lost at home. And I had a chancellor in the last minute and didn't score. So we lost that. And then it was one of those, when you look at the league tables, you're second from bottom or whatever it was. But we had a good team spirit and we had good players. And we always knew that there was a chance that we would climb the table. But it wasn't a very good start, but we went on a fantastic run during the season.
Certainly did. If I remember right, you played Torquay on a Friday night, and if you'd lost, you would have gone bottom. But you beat Torquay, and they went bottom, which was a good result. Then that run started. If I remember right, you played at Hartlepool on Saturday. Then there was a Milk Cup tie at Sunderland.
Yeah.
And that's really when it all kicked off, wasn't it? That's when it really all started.
Yeah. I mean, the Milk Cup was great. I mean, we fared no one really. We just took the games as they came, because one of the things was we had a level of fitness that we knew that no one's going to match us on the fitness. So we knew that every game that we'd be in it to the end. But if you look at the players actually on the field, we played a very direct game, but actually when the ball dropped on the floor, the players were very good. Very good players.
We spoke to Charlie Henry the other night, of course, what season he had.
Oh, fantastic. Charlie was you imagine Charlie now. People would have bought him. He'd have been snapped up, Charlie. Strength, guile, great finisher. You wouldn't mess about with Charlie. You wouldn't want to go into a tackle with Charlie. It's like hitting a tank. But he scored some fantastic goals.
Yeah, very memorable one against Gillingham, of course. Lots of people still talk about in the playoffs the following year. Yeah. So what was it then that suddenly clicked, do you think? What was it that suddenly turned? I mean, the army camps we talk about many times. What are your memories of the army camps?
Well, I was rebellious. I've come from London. I was going home. And no, I hated the army camps, but I went to the army camps. And like I said, one of the things, talk about it clicking. One of the things I would always say, Louis was unbelievable at picking teams. Unbelievable. I mean, you could play really well for 5 games and find yourself out of the team for no reason. He would just know how to pick a team to win a game. So that's why it clicked. And then the army camps, he'd been one of the first people that did that. To be honest, people talk about it now like it's normal, but he'd been one of the first people to do that. And I think, in some respect, it brought us together in the fact that we didn't want to go. So there was a unity amongst us in being disgusted that we had to go to the army camps. And I think the team bonding and the camaraderie really sort of started holding itself together during those times.
Yeah, fabulous. Sunderland, of course, in the Milk Cup. Sheffield Wednesday at home in the Milk Cup. I mean, boy, what a night that was. Yeah,
it was a fantastic night, Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, they had some good players in there as well. I think Lee Chapman and Clive Walker and people like that were playing. So, another one. It wasn't the case of us even thinking that we were going to lose that game. We just took the game to them, as we did. Like I said, our fitness and our quality. Some of the players that we had on the field were equal to them as well.
It all ended, of course, at Ipswich in a not quite so fantastic night, if you remember rightly.
No, but at the end of the day, we weren't probably entitled to beat those two teams anyway.
Yeah, sure. Let's have a look. Rob says, remember when you got dressed up in the whole Rambo garb, bare chest, cross bandoliers, the bandana and all? What match was that for, and how did you feel about this stunt? I think Dave Evans is a great photographer. The Evening Advertiser might have got involved in that, but do you remember that?
Yeah, because there was a model. A model came, and I had a picture taken with that. I think my stomach was a lot flatter then than it is now.
Did you like that though? I mean, you know, the nickname Rambo. That must. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it because the film came out just at that time, and I liked it. And you know, it's probably the first Rambo in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Chris. Please come back to the town, says Rich. So there you are. I can't remember this happening, says Sean, but was it right that you stood on a ball versus Darlington and pulled your socks up?
It was against Port Vale.
Oh, was it Port Vale? Yeah.
I think it was Port. I can't remember. I think it was Port Vale. Might have been Darlington. Yeah, I done my shoelace up, and we were winning comfortably. Shouldn't have done it. Should have never done it. Brian Kidd was the manager of the team, of that team, whatever team it was. Might have been Preston. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Preston. Yeah.
And then we had to be pulled apart. But I was totally in the wrong. Should never have done it.
How did Lou react?
He went absolutely loopy.
Did he?
He went absolutely loopy. I mean, when I look back now, Cole, what would I have done to one of my players now if they did that? I wouldn't have been very happy.
It's a learning process, I guess, though, isn't it, for anybody?
It's a learning process, but one thing you don't do is mock your fellow professionals.
Fair enough. Okay. So what about that run then? If I remember right, you lost at Tranmere on a snow-covered pitch. Lou wasn't happy that everybody helped clear the pitch off. I remember that. And then you went on that fantastic run, 6 away wins, 6 away victories in a row, all that kind of stuff. What was the mood like then?
The mood, listen, it was more humble times then. People not everybody even had a car in those days. You know, it's not like now where people are more affluent. It was, you know, we knew the value of a pound. If we went out for a drink, everyone got, you know, it's not like it is now. The mood was fantastic. Everybody seemed to get on. Yeah, listen, we had our ups and downs and our disagreements, but in general, everybody was quite united. And I think that was, you know, mainly down to Lou, really, because Lou built up a situation where I wouldn't say we were against him, but we were against some of his tactics and some of the way that he wanted to play. And then obviously when we started winning games on a regular basis, everybody bought into what he wanted. And obviously Harry Gregg was there as well at the time. So, you know, it was good. John Trollope, he was fantastic for the group. I mean, John Trollope was someone that everybody respected. But I tell you what, even though he's a quiet man and, you know, and he would be the one that you'd probably go to, he'd tell you straight if you thought you weren't doing things properly. He
was about as fit as everybody else, wasn't he?
Well, I'll tell you a story. When I first went there, I was complaining about doing a run and he duped me, John. So I went for a run with him and he just kept talking to me and then we just kept running. In the end, we ran 6 miles. And he kept up with me, and he was like, "Oh, so you said you can't run?" But he would have beat me at any stage if he'd gone into second gear. He would have beat me at any stage. But John was still fit when we were there. Probably one of the fittest at the club.
Yeah, it's great still to see him at the club now, and I'm delighted to say he's the latest name to say that he will be coming to the night. So you'll be able to see him.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Fantastic. Let's have a look. We started that red and white army chant for games, which I bet other clubs fans will try and claim. It started from the army camp thing. Yeah. So that's 6 away games in a row, 6 away victories. I mean, I remember one at Rochdale, I think, where you were a goal behind. And then because of the fitness, you did score late in the game. I mean, that was the trick, wasn't it? You kept going the last 15, 20 minutes of games.
Yeah. We did, and you know what the thing is, when you've got some of the people like a Lee Bernard, people like that, they could run all day. Charlie can run all day. You had Coyne, people like that, Dave Hockaday. When you've got people like that in there who are committed professionals, yeah, you know, it's difficult to not at that time to not win games or to not keep going right till the end.
Yeah, Monday night at Stockport, I seem to remember, was a pretty memorable night too. Great wins like that. And you're closing on all these records. I mean, in this book that I've just showed you, I mean, there's all the records in the front of it, and you read them out, and it just goes on and on and on. You know, the records like longest unbeaten league sequence, most consecutive away league games without defeat, fewest defeats in the Football League season, consecutive home league wins, consecutive away league wins. I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. And the club, do you know what? The club was really, I would say, in quite a good place then, because you'd come in and, you know, as you're walking into the ground, the crowd would be with you, and we had the betting shop next door, and, you know, and it was quite vibrant, quite vibrant.
So you come towards the climax of the season, and promotion is against Chester, I think, on the Tuesday night, and then you're looking for those points records. How determined were the team at that time to see the thing through?
I think there was no doubt that we were going to do it. We didn't think that we weren't going to do it. You know, when you go on that run, it just snowballs, and you have a self-belief. You have a belief in each other that you're just going to win. When you have a good promotion season, which that was, there just is a belief. Whatever you do, you're going to win, and you're getting changed. People are positive. Not that much nerves actually at the time because of the run that we had. So the mood was fantastic.
There are all sorts of players who often don't get mentioned. People like Brian Wade, Peter Coyne, of course, who scored some incredibly crucial goals. You know, players like that. And Peter Coyne had come from Man United, but you know, he was a vibrant part of that Swindon team, wasn't he? He was very much a part of it. Yeah,
and you know, I think so you had people like him, Paul Roberts, people like that. You have, but I mean, to be honest with you, the way that Louis had assembled the team, it was genius the way that he'd done it, and like I said, picking the teams. You know, someone like Peter Coyne. I mean, imagine him now as a number 10. You know, a crafty number 10. What would he be worth now? Him?
Yeah, extraordinary. He scored that great goal against Sheffield Wednesday, of course, in the Milk Cup that night, memorable night. And I always remember he said it went right down my head, down my ear, down my shoulder, and then into the net. It was a fabulous night. Still remember Charlie Henry lobbing the keeper at Rochdale away to equalise. And then I've got a picture that's been sent in by Chris, and it's giving you all your. Hang on, I wonder if I can show you that. There we are. Chris Ramsey. I don't know if you can see that on there. Fact file of the Town Men. There you are. There's a picture of you and all your details.
What is that in the programme? Or
I think it might be. Yeah, is it the programme, or indeed it might be in that magazine I've showed you? So.
Oh, brilliant.
We'll bring all those souvenirs along on the night so you can have a look at, including a cassette that I was involved in many years ago. Did you get a copy of that?
No.
Oh, right. Well,
I'd love to get that.
We'll bring them along, and so you can have a look. Peter Coyne away at Bristol City, perfect. So there you are. That's another comment from Mark. So they ended that season and the aforementioned promotion party and stuff. The following season, 86, it continues. So, you know, once you have a good season, does the momentum necessarily continue? Does it carry on?
Yeah, because I think the people that we had, was that the season that Cammy came back? Was it?
No, Chris was already there in the 4th division camp. Yeah.
Yeah, Cammy was there. Who did we add there to that season? We added some players, didn't we?
Steve White got added.
White, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you got Steve White. But I think what happened was Louis had kept the bulk of the team together, and he'd added one or two players. And I think we got 100 points in that season, the first season.
102 points. Yeah.
So there was a belief that we were probably able to hold our own in the league above, which we obviously did.
Yeah.
And just that momentum from the season before and the pre-season we had and how we worked and what we did just helped us to carry on.
Yeah, that apparently that came from Chris, that photograph, and she's going through all the programs for the pictures for the event that you're going to come to. Mm-hmm. So trust me, there'll be a lot of things for you to see that night. So bring back a lot of memories. It'll be great. So that you didn't actually play in the playoff campaign though, did you? You played till late in the season. What happened?
A mixture of falling out with Lou and a mixture of injuries.
Right. Okay. Do you want to go any further with that, or do you want to leave it?
No. Listen. During the time I was there, my mum died.
All right.
And I actually went off the rails. It's something that I look back now and you know, we talk about mental health and this and that and the other. And in those days, there was no awareness of that. And if I look back at you know, my need for alcohol and all the stuff that goes with it, these days you'd probably get some counselling. And to be fair, Louis was fantastic with me during the time initially when my mum passed away. And but obviously he's got a team to run, so sure. He's got to, if you're misbehaving, you've got to suffer the consequences of not behaving properly.
Sure. It's interesting, isn't it, how the attitudes towards mental health have changed. I mean, now in your position, how important is that, looking after young players, for instance, when they maybe get told that they've been released, like you were earlier in your career? It doesn't just stop now. There is an aftercare, that kind of thing. Yeah,
there is. I mean, believe it or not, you know, when someone in your family dies or someone that's close to you dies, people tend to, you know, we Brits love the stiff upper lip approach. But I think there's more awareness now that you do actually need some bereavement counselling and stuff like that. So they were different times. But Louis was brilliant with me to start with in that first season, and I played most of the games and stuff like that. But there was a mixture of falling out with Louis and injuries, which meant that I wasn't in the team.
Sure, because I think with bereavement, some people say, well, it takes 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks off, get over it, and then off you go.
Exactly.
It's not quite like that, is it? It's not quite
No.
Mark says, given recent times, I'm so glad I have wonderful memories of the Lou Macari era. They really were great times. And I think if you talk to a town fan of a certain vintage, they were great times. I mean, you must have felt that, you know, you were a tight-knit bunch. You must have felt the love of the fans. That's very important, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought I really, really did feel that's, you know, the fans were brilliant to me at Swindon. I can't fault anything that they ever did for me, you know, and they were always encouraging me. And, you know, and I used to come in from on the train sometimes, and then you'd come in from the station, you get there to get the cab, and the fans would be there, and you really felt like a hero. It was brilliant.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, your time at Swindon comes to an end, and I think you go off to Southend. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
How did that come about then?
Well, obviously I was out of the team, and it was. I think it was a stupid move to go there, because I was obviously part of the squad at Swindon, and we, you know, and we were moving up. The team was going up, and I with the lack of guidance that in those days, you know, you're making decisions on your own, probably making emotional decisions. And I decided to go there, and, you know, they said, look, you're going to come, you're going to be captain. And they wanted to emulate what Swindon had done, that type of thing. And they were putting the team together, and I ended up going there.
You say it was not a great decision. What particularly made it not a great decision?
Because as you get older, you get injuries. I was injured there for 2 years. I had a bad injury there, and it wasn't a good time for me. I think I must have played, I don't know, 15 games for them in the time I was there, and I ended up having to have a back operation. I had to retire early from that at the time, in England anyway, because I played abroad after that. Yeah. But it was an emotional move that, you know, looking back now with better guidance, I probably wouldn't have made.
Sure. I was going to say, you went off to Malta and to the United States. Is that right? You say you played abroad.
Yeah.
So tell us about that, because America's one of these sort of weird places. You know, now they've got a very established league, they've got big crowds, all that kind of stuff. But it's one of those weird places where football's never really quite grabbed hold until recent times. And it seems to have done now. But it was a very strange sort of atmosphere for footballer, I'm sure, is it?
Yeah, I mean, what I did after my operation, I had some business interests, which I lost all my money because I was obviously not very educated at that time within business and was, a bit of a boy racer regarding my attitudes towards it. And I was actually hit rock bottom. I trained myself, and a friend of mine, Don Shanks, who's a QPR legend, I played with at Brighton. He arranged for me to go to Malta on trial, and I went out there for 2 weeks initially, and I stayed 3 years. I became a player coach out there, and then obviously the coaching part of it became part of me.
Yeah.
And then during the summers, I used to go to America to do camps through the PFA originally, and then I found my own way, and I ended up coaching Florida Tech University. And there was the fella who got me there. He had a team called Coco Expos, which Ricky Hill was there. So me and Ricky used to coach them in their league in those days, in the league that they had. And that's what I ended up doing. And Ricky left the season. I was there for 2 summers, but Ricky left and came back to Sheffield Wednesday, and I became the coach. And it was great. So it was one of those. I was a player coach. So when we were winning, I put myself on. So it was like, put myself on at number 10. Spraying it about.
I mean, you've got the odd goal, let's be fair, but did you get any goals when playing as a number 10?
Yeah, just the odd one.
Yeah, well done. Excellent. What a player Ricky Hill was, eh? Good player.
Fantastic player. Fantastic.
Yeah. John says, well said, Chris. I just lost my mum, and my support from my family and friends has been truly amazing. So I think, bereavement is one of those things, sadly, we all have to deal with, but we learn more as we go on, don't we?
Exactly.
Let's have a look. Tim says, 1986 was when I started following the town. What an absolute roller coaster for the next decade. Boy, that's one word you can use about Swindon Town, a roller coaster. Yeah. I know that's 2 words, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. So coaching then is obviously a great love of yours because, you've been involved with the England under 20 team as well, and the World Youth Championships and things like that. I mean, when did you get the coaching bug? Was it when you started in Malta in America?
Yeah, what happened was when I was in Malta, basically I was one of the foreign players that was there, and they sacked the manager, and they just said, right, you get paid the most, so you're going to be the coach till we get someone else in, and we did. And what happened was the club, because of some irregularities, got relegated 2 divisions before I came, and we got 2 promotions when I was there. We got to the final, the National Cup final. And one season led into another and led into another. And I've always just been a coach since then, really.
Yeah. I mean, is it the same as a player? I mean, no.
Never. And player coach is even worse because you're coaching them to do something, and then you don't do it yourself. So it's very, very, it's the worst. That's the hardest job I've ever had.
Sure.
But I've just always been a coach since then, really. So what was that? 1990, So I've been coaching since then.
You've been a scout for the England senior team as well under Kevin Keegan. That's right.
Yeah. So basically what happened was when I came back to England, I went to uni, and I was the head of player development at Orient for 3 years while I was at uni. And then the FA headhunted me, and I went to work for the FA. I was Howard Wilkins' assistant, which was good, and we did scouting for England at the time. It was brilliant. It's a fantastic learning curve for me at the time.
So what are you looking for for a player then for the England national team? What are you looking for first and foremost?
Well, at the time when I was Howard's assistant, and we were doing the under 18s, and then he took over the under 21s for a little while. So I used to have to go and watch the players there. And then obviously because we were in the national scouting scheme, it was different, a lot different to what it is now. I was the regional director for London and the South East, and you were in charge of that yourself. So you'd have to go and watch the games yourself. You didn't have this big team that everybody's got. So you're looking at obviously the technical ability and obviously the flair that they were looking for the certain players at that time. So no, it was a brilliant learning curve for me. I learned a lot of things about a lot of things.
What about QPR? Because I think you took over from Harry Redknapp, didn't you? Harry Redknapp resigned. You became head coach at QPR.
Yeah, I was at Tottenham for 10 years before that, but at QPR, when Les Ferdinand brought me in, so I owe Les a lot. He's shown a lot of faith in me by bringing me in here initially as head of player development, and I came in, I think November 2014, and then obviously trying to put a philosophy of play and development into play, and then in the February of the next 2015, Harry fell ill and decided that it was better for his health that he would step down, and I stepped in as the interim manager, and the club, thankfully for me, fortunately for me, gave me the job as the manager, which I lasted the best part of a year, but it was a brilliant experience for myself, coaching and managing in the Premier League and the Championship, which has broadened my knowledge and broadened me as a coach.
What do you take into management then? What are the bad points of a player and the good points of a player that you take into management? Because every individual's got good and bad points, haven't they? So what bits did you take in and into your job as a manager?
As a manager, obviously, having been a bit tricky myself as a player, you can understand, you can see what's going to happen before it happens a lot of the time. And obviously, you have to move with the times, because you think I started in 1978 and now you're in the 21st century. People are different. The way you talk to players is different. The way the society is different. So you have to evolve with the times and make sure whatever happens that you treat people according to what the times need. So I've taken a lot of that into it, evolved as a coach and a person in my relationships with players. When I was first, coaching in America, I coached in Charleston before in the USL. I'm quite autocratic now, to be fair, but I was a lot more autocratic then, and because that a coach, average time of a coach is 1.1 year, so you have to get things done quite quickly, and you have to quickly get people on your side, and regardless of that, you can still go pair.
Sure. I mean, your club's recently changed managers, of course. Gareth Ainsworth has gone, and sometimes when a player is a legend at a club and then that decision has to be made, it's a difficult one for everybody, I guess, isn't it?
Gareth's are fantastic. Him and Richard Dobson, they were fantastic at the time that they were here. Very inclusive. They worked very, very hard. But results in the end, it's about results, and and obviously we've got Marty in now, and I'm sure. Sorry, I've got to do this.
Your light's gone again.
Yeah, put now 10 pence in the meter. We got Marty now and Xavi, who's his assistant, and I'm hoping that we can turn it round and carry on the good work that's the foundations that was starting to be put in before.
How difficult a decision is that, though, to get rid of a manager? I mean, you've been through that experience. You know what it's like. I mean, how difficult is that?
I think it's very, very difficult, especially when they're good people. It's very good, very difficult, and you can see the hard work and blood and sweat that they put in. But nowadays, social media that's at least a third of the reason people get get rid of managers. The fan backlash. Back in the day, if things weren't going well, you were getting a lot of stick from your local environment, and people could wait. But now, the boards, they become under pressure because they're getting pelters from social media. The managers get their families get involved because people can directly talk to them, and that, I think that's at least if there's 2 or 3 parts to it. I think it's at least a third of it is down to social media. I think people get influenced by that. It affects the brand, affects a lot of things. As sponsors look at that, so I think it plays a massive part in it. And what people don't tend to realise is that most of the people on social media after a game are very emotional, and a lot of the haters are people who've had 5 pints and are probably wouldn't say what they were saying 2 days later.
That's interesting that you should say so many. That plays such an influential part in things. Because I think it was said at the last general election that social media doesn't have a great deal of influence on the election results. But that's I suppose, really, if it affects gates and people stop coming, then you have to be very careful about that.
Of course you do. And although me personally, I didn't read it when I was in charge, but your family read it and your friends read it, and people inadvertently tell you. So it is something that we have to learn to live with, so to speak.
Yeah, as you know, as we started talking about this, it appears that Swindon are going through more problems on and off the pitch. I mean, you know more now about what goes into running a football club than many people. Mm-hmm. How many branches of running a football club are there? I mean, just it's not about putting 11 players on a pitch on a Saturday, is there? There's so much involved in this. There's
a lot more than people that meets the eye. And listen, one of the things, let's start with the management. In the past, you had the manager, you had Louis and John and physio. That was it. And so the management was a lot more tight knit. Now the support staff is vast at a football club. It's vast. So what you have a lot more people that can actually stab you in the back. You have a lot more people talking in corners. You have a lot more influence on the players. Before you had, like you said, we had Louis, John, Kevin Morris. And that was it. And Kevin done the kit as well. So the trust element was probably a little bit more assured because it would only go through 3 or 4 people. Now, you have your sports scientists, you have your nutritionists, you have your psychologists, you have your head of this, head of that. So the manager's power is very much more diluted now than it's ever been. So that's one faction. Secondly, players have more access to the owners than they ever had before. So owners like to be in the limelight more than they've ever been before. So, owners can phone players up and say, what was training like? And it only takes 1 or 2 senior players that don't like the manager to say the wrong thing. And obviously the scrutiny then becomes even more focused. So owners are more involved than ever with the actual play inside of the game. And then running the club itself, the results affect people commercially. Playing style is one thing, but the results obviously affects people commercially. So that has a massive say in what you do, in the players that you play as well, to attract sponsors, playing style to attract sponsors. So it's not always just putting 11 players out on the field. And if you look at how things are different, if you're a manager now, obviously when I first went to Swindon, I think it was 1 sub or 2 subs, and then obviously it grew. Yeah. But players died to play because the way that your wages were made were built up differently. You had appearance money, which could be 1/3 of your wage. You had the money for points, which could be another 1/3 of your wage. And and depending on what other bonuses you were personally, you could probably double your money by playing. Whereas now, the money that people get, sometimes people are prepared not to play with little injuries or niggles as they would do in the past. Now, this is not saying in my day things were better. This is just saying things are different to what they were.
You mentioned agents, of course, weren't around. I think when you were at Swindon and all that kind of thing. Do they help or hinder?
In my experience, most of them hinder. But they are a necessary part of the game now because people have got them. I think at the senior level they probably help because the players need them to deal with their contracts and make sure that they're secure. I think agents have got better in their advice as regards when people finish their career. However, I think for the younger fraternity, I think it hinders a lot, and I think a lot of the times they're not necessary.
Sure. Right, we're going to finish by talking about that evening on the 22nd of November, which we're all really looking forward to. And I would imagine it'll be a very special occasion for you to meet up with some of your mates that night, because I think what we're going to do is have a little buffet where you can go off and have a chat amongst yourselves before we start the evening proper. I guess there'll be a lot of war stories spread that night, won't there?
Yeah, there will be. There'll be a lot of giggling. There'll be a lot of giggling and a lot of stories being told, and and I even thinking back to it now, I just remember very innocent times compared to now, and the graft that we used to put in, and the affection eventually that everybody had for the philosophy that Louis had put in and how successful it was, and the drive that we all had at that time. Yeah, for me, I've not experienced it in any other situation. The drive that apart from when I went to Tottenham and we had a fantastic development squad that all ended up being first team players, but the drive that we had there, and the camaraderie was second to none.
Fabulous. What was your favourite memory, would you say? Have you got one? I mean, there's so many, I assume.
There's just that night at Chesterfield when everyone invaded the pitch. Was that Chesterfield?
Chester.
Chester. Everyone invaded the pitch. I remember one Saturday I think one of the times when we all went up to when you walk up the stairs to the board where the board was after a game. I think we'd got promoted, but there were so many memories, so many good memories there. And when you're winning all the time, every memory is precious, And when you're going into games, believing that you're going to win, that's a precious time as well,
Well, Dad says it was better in your day, most definitely. I mean, we all look back with fondness on various eras, but I think many Swindon fans will look back on that particular 3 or 4 years as a golden era of the club, which I think as a supporter you have to grab hold of as well, don't you? Because they don't come around very often at any football club, unless you're Man City or one of the big clubs. Yeah. But they're precious moments, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the club did fantastic in the end, ended up in the Premier League. So and was robbed of a Premier League spot when those points got deducted. So Swindon, by and large, it's been there or thereabouts. I mean, the thing is, when you do have situations that are not favourable, financial situations, sometimes it does take a little bit of luck to stay in a higher league. But I'm sure that you had a few fantastic playoff situations a few years ago, didn't you? When you had Massimo Luongo and people like that playing there, you had a few fantastic situations. You played a really good brand of football under what was the Notts County manager now? What's his name?
Oh, Luke Williams.
Yeah, Luke Williams. You had Ross Embleton there as well. You played a really good brand of football for a few seasons. So I don't think it's far away from you getting back to that. But ups and downs always happen.
Were you involved? You say you were at Tottenham. Were you involved in those players coming like Massimo Luongo? You were involved with them coming to Swindon, weren't you?
Yeah. We're involved in all of them. Grant Hall, Jack Bartram. Was it, all those players that came and played there? Nathan Byrne played for you, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah. So we were involved in those things. It was a good time, that, because basically Swindon was a good place for them to play. You had a coach that played a brand of football that helped them, and I think you sold quite a few players there, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, Chris, thank you ever so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we're really looking forward to the 22nd of November. I mean, I can't, we've almost sold out. We've only got, I think, 5 tickets left. So, you're going to be welcomed back with open arms, I think, that night. So fabulous. Thank you so much.
Listen, look, it's an honour actually to be asked to come on, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing everybody. And thank you again for asking me to come on.
No, pleasure. Well, you are Chris. Other Chris. There are 2 Chris's.
Thanks ever so much, Chris. And again, thank you for coming on. But thank you for accepting our invite to the live event. And as Vic has said, we're nearly at the 200 mark. So tickets sold. So hopefully we'll get there, and all your teammates, and it'll be a good night. So if anybody does want to come on the 22nd, we have got a handful. I think it's about 5 or 6, but we're trying to negotiate a few extras if anybody does want to. But we need to get you need to get in there quick.
Very quick.
Okay. Thank you for tonight. We will be back next week after the Stockport game with a Monday night panel.
I've just got a note here from Andrew. It says the night will start with a 6-mile run, Chris.
That's one less than Louis used to make us do.
Brilliant. Okay, so we will see you all soon. Bye-bye.